What if we told you that an entire nation, led by a supreme leader, authorized a secret war against the global economy by printing perfect counterfeit US dollars? What country would dare to weaponize the US dollar, the bedrock of global finance? Let's go back to 1989, North Korea. Pyongyang. The cold, sterile air of the government laboratory hummed with a tense, focused energy. Outside, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea was projecting an image of monolithic strength to its citizens, even as its economy strained under the weight of its own isolation and the recent loss of its Soviet benefactors. But inside this secure facility, a team of the nation's most brilliant chemists, textile engineers, and master engravers were not working on patriotic propaganda or military hardware. Their task, handed down from the highest levels of the regime, was one of exquisite deception, to replicate not just the image, but the very soul of America currency. Their goal was to forge not merely paper, but trust itself, to create a perfect replica of the United States $100 bill, so flawless it would flow undetected through the arteries of the global financial system. This was not a crime of desperation, but a calculated act of state. Each precise measurement of cotton and linen pulp, each chemical analysis of proprietary ink, was a silent declaration of war. They were no longer just scientists and artisans. They had become soldiers on a new battlefield, and their weapon was the most convincing lie ever printed. The success of their mission would fund a kingdom of shadows, paying for everything from forbidden luxury goods to the very bombs that would ensure their homeland's defiant survival. The first hint of a problem emerged not with a bang, but with a quiet, persistent confusion in central banks across Asia and Europe. Currency examiners, the individuals tasked with identifying counterfeit money, began encountering $100 bills that defied their expertise. The notes felt correct, their paper possessing the distinct crisp texture, a specific blend of cotton and linen that was supposed to be a state secret. It wasn't just similar. It mimicked the exact tensile strength and acoustic properties of genuine U.S. currency. When held to the light, a security thread was perfectly embedded within the paper, and the ink in the bell of the inkwell shifted from copper to green with a smooth, familiar motion. This wasn't mere imitation. The color-shifting effect was achieved through a micro-layering process that required advanced chemical expertise far beyond typical counterfeiting. Standard automated sorting machines, designed to catch forgeries, accepted the notes without complaint. These were not the crude, easily dismissed fakes typically passed in dark alleyways. These were perfection, a mirror image so precise it threatened the very integrity of the global financial system. The financial world had a new, unnerving mystery on its hands, and it bestowed upon it a name that conveyed both respect and dread: the supernote. This term, also commonly called the superdollar, is the term used by intelligence and law enforcement agencies to describe an extremely high-quality counterfeit United States $100 bill produced and distributed by North Korea as part of a state-sponsored illicit financing operation. The United States Secret Service, the federal agency charged with safeguarding the nation's currency, took the lead in the investigation. Their forensic analysis quickly revealed the terrifying sophistication of the supernote. The counterfeiters had not merely imitated the bill's design, they had reverse-engineered its very soul. The paper was not a close approximation, but a near-perfect replica, requiring access to specialized mills and a proprietary knowledge of textile composition. The color-shifting ink was not a mere pigment, but a complex, micro-layered optical device, its chemistry suggesting a state-level investment in research and development. Most alarming was the security thread, a polymer strip microprinted with the text USA 100, that was not simply printed on the surface but woven into the paper itself during its formation, a process thought to be impossible to replicate outside the official U.S. Bureau of Engraving and Printing. Each examination deepened the mystery, pointing toward an adversary with virtually unlimited resources and technical prowess. Quietly, a pattern began to emerge from the seizures and arrests made across the globe. In 1994, a North Korean diplomat was expelled from Moscow after being caught with over $100,000 of these flawless counterfeits. Over the following years, similar incidents implicated DPRK officials from Macau to Lebanon, their diplomatic passports shielding them from thorough searches and prosecution. The trail of the supernote consistently led back to the world's most isolated regime. The Secret Service, working with intelligence agencies, pieced together a network of distributors, often linked to organized crime or insurgent groups. But the supply chain invariably traced east, toward the Korean peninsula. The evidence was circumstantial but overwhelming, painting a picture of a state not merely tolerating criminal enterprise, but actively directing and profiting from it as a central pillar of its economic policy. The source of the supernote was not a hidden criminal lair, it was a national treasury. The operation required more than just skilled printers. It demanded an entire nation's resources. The production of the supernote was a vertically integrated process, orchestrated from the top echelons of the North Korean government. Intelligence assessments and defector testimonies point to a sprawling, multi-stage operation. The first and most critical challenge was sourcing the paper. The unique composition of cotton and linen, a formula guarded more fiercely than most state secrets, had to be cracked. This task fell not to a clandestine workshop, but to state-run textile and paper mills, repurposed and placed under the control of the military. These facilities experimented for years with different rag compositions, eventually producing a substrate whose tensile strength, acoustic properties, and tactile feel were virtually indistinguishable from the genuine article. The next phase was equally complex, replicating the intricate engraving and specialized inks. The intaglio printing plates, which create the raised texture of authentic currency, were masterfully engraved, a task requiring the skill of artists who typically produced state propaganda and portraits of the leadership. The color-shifting optically variable ink, OVI, a proprietary technology, was painstakingly reverse-engineered by chemists working in government laboratories. The final assembly of the notes was conducted in a secure, dedicated printing facility, rumored to be located deep within a guarded military compound. Here, under the strictest secrecy, the paper was fed into high-grade industrial printing presses, likely acquired through front companies in Asia or Europe, to undergo the exacting process of offset, intaglio, and letterpress printing that gave the supernote its infamous credibility. Overseeing this vast criminal enterprise was Office 39, a shadowy department operating directly under the ruling Kim dynasty. Established in the 1970s, its mandate was singular: to generate foreign currency for the leadership by any means necessary. Office 39's tentacles extended far beyond counterfeiting, managing a portfolio of illicit activities, including narcotics production, insurance fraud, weapon sales, and the exploitation of overseas slave labor. The revenue generated was not for the national treasury, but formed a multi-billion-dollar slush fund, known as the Kim's Court Fund, used to secure the loyalty of the elite through gifts of luxury cars, cognac, and Swiss watches, to finance the development of ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons, and to procure crucial technology otherwise banned by international sanctions. The supernote was not a side project. It was a strategic asset, a weapon of financial warfare designed to sustain a regime that existed in a permanent state of antagonism with the international community. The flawless production of the supernote was only half the battle. Introducing billions of dollars in counterfeit currency into the global financial system without detection required a sophisticated and discreet distribution network. North Korea, through Office 39, did not directly funnel these notes into circulation. Instead, it relied on a web of intermediaries, often leveraging established criminal organizations and corrupt foreign officials who provided both deniability and access to international markets. The notes were moved in bulk, often using the same routes and methods as other illicit commodities. Diplomatic pouches, protected by international law from search and seizure, were a preferred method for initial transportation, providing a secure conduit for moving large quantities of supernotes from Pyongyang to friendly embassies and consulates abroad, which then served as regional distribution hubs. From these secure nodes, the next layer of the network took over. Chinese triads, Russian mobsters, and Irish Republican groups were all identified by international law enforcement as key distributors. These organizations had the existing infrastructure to launder the money on a massive scale. The process was methodical. The pristine supernotes were often sold to these syndicates at a significant discount, exchanging, for example, $1 million in counterfeit bills for $300,000 in genuine currency. The criminal groups would then use a technique known as smurfing, employing countless individuals to make small, untraceable deposits into bank accounts across a region, or use the bills to purchase high-value assets like gold, electronics, or luxury goods that could be easily resold for clean money. The sheer quality of the notes allowed them to enter the financial bloodstream of entire continents, moving undetected from small-town banks to the vaults of major international financial institutions. The impact of this operation was twofold, serving both a practical and a philosophical purpose for the Pyongyang regime. Practically, it generated a river of untraceable hard currency that flowed directly into the coffers of Office 39, insulating the leadership from the crippling effects of economic sanctions. This revenue stream was lifeblood, paying for the imported luxury goods that maintained elite loyalty and funding the clandestine procurement of components for the country's weapons programs. More broadly, the operation was a pointed act of financial warfare. By flooding the world's economy with perfect fakes, North Korea was not just funding its regime, it was directly attacking the credibility of its primary adversary. Every supernote that circulated was a tiny, corrosive act against the trust underpinning the US dollar as the world's reserve currency, a symbolic blow against American financial hegemony from one of the world's most isolated and defiant states. Faced with a dramatically diminished return on investment and increased international pressure, including the designation of Office 39 itself under sanctions, North Korea pivoted its illicit fundraising efforts. The era of state-sponsored physical counterfeiting gave way to the digital age. The regime's operatives, many with the same technical aptitude that had once solved the puzzle of color-shifting ink, were redirected toward a new, even more lucrative frontier: cybercrime. State-sponsored hacking units began executing sophisticated bank heists, siphoning hundreds of millions of dollars directly from financial institutions. Cryptocurrency exchanges became prime targets for theft, and ransomware attacks emerged as a potent new tool for extortion. The supernote, a symbol of industrial-era deception, was retired, replaced by a silent, virtual war waged from computer terminals in Pyongyang, proving that the regime's commitment to funding itself through illicit means had simply evolved, not ended. The story of the North Korean supernote operation stands as a stark testament to a regime's ingenuity for survival in the face of near-total isolation. It was not a mere criminal enterprise, but a sophisticated act of statecraft, a deliberate and calculated form of financial warfare waged from the shadows. For decades, it served as a critical lifeline, funneling untraceable millions into the coffers of the elite, insulating the leadership from the very sanctions designed to curb its ambitions, and directly funding the development of weapons that now threaten global security. The operation demonstrated a chilling capability to not only replicate a global symbol of value, but to weaponize trust itself, subtly eroding the integrity of the international financial system from within. The eventual neutralization of the supernote through a combination of relentless law enforcement and technological innovation marks a rare, clear victory in the ongoing struggle to contain the DPRK's illicit activities. The redesign of the US currency proved that a robust defense could indeed counter even the most advanced forms of deception. Yet this victory is inherently provisional. The cessation of widespread supernote circulation did not signify a retreat by Pyongyang, but a strategic evolution. The same resources, the same state-sponsored apparatus of Office 39, simply shifted from the physical to the digital domain, pursuing greater rewards with lower risks through cyber heists and cryptocurrency theft. Ultimately, the legacy of the supernote is one of enduring precedent. It permanently redefined the boundaries of state-sponsored crime, proving that a nation could effectively operate a vast, illicit corporation whose product was fraud. The operation serves as a permanent case study in how a pariah state can exploit the interconnected vulnerabilities of global finance and technology. It underscores a sobering reality. As long as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea remains cut off from the legitimate global economy, its commitment to developing ever more creative and disruptive methods of illicit financing will remain undiminished, ensuring that the shadow of the world's perfect fake continues to loom over the future of international security. This incredible true story reveals the lengths a nation will go to survive and defy the world order. But what do you think? Was North Korea's audacious scheme to print perfect US dollars a desperate act of survival, or a dangerously brilliant strategy that ultimately paid off? Could such a state-level deception happen again in the digital age? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. If you were captivated by this untold story of financial warfare, please like and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring you more deep dives into the world's most secretive and impactful events.